Holy, here we go again, Batman.
Hey guys, you're listening to the NerdSync podcast. Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Scott, and we have a really cool, exciting topic to talk to you about today. I'm joined by Chris and Bryce, as always, and we'll be talking about which comic book characters and storylines we think deserve their own live-action adaptation. Now, this could mean movies, TV shows, or even just a Marvel one-shot. Whatever it is, it's so cool that we need someone to portray it in live action in some capacity. But first things first, I did want to apologize for being absent last week. I was out of town for my birthday, so I didn't have time to record a normal episode of the podcast. So with that being said, I don't want to delay any further, because we've already delayed a week at this point. So let's just jump right into it with today's episode, and we'll see you right here at the end for some more of me talking. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, so let's talk about characters and stories in comic books. Come on, Chris.
I'm dying.
This happens every time we try to start an episode. Something happens.
Last time.
Hey, I have allergies.
Believable.
I'm a nerd, remember?
Yeah, sure. Push up those glasses, nerd. Let's get to business. Hey, man. We're all just nerds on the inside who need love.
Fully.
Yep.
Nerd.
All right. Let's talk about characters and stories that should have their own movies. I want to do a couple guidelines before we jump in. But first, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Scott.
I am Groot.
Nailed it that time.
I am Chris.
And I'm Bryce.
Perfect. That's one of the better intros we've had, I think.
I had to do it. I was waiting all week to do it.
Yep. Now it's not even culturally relevant. What is Groot? I don't know.
Now I can die a happy man.
Perfect.
Knowing I pulled it off.
So yeah, I don't know whose idea this thing was, this topic for a podcast.
It was Bryce.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, Bryce. Gosh dang it,
But
Bryce.
you expanded on it though. Bryce had the idea, and then you brought it a little further.
So I'll take full credit for it then. So I did want to lay down some ground rules because there is a lot of characters obviously that we've heard of that could get movies, and I don't really want to talk about those because that seems obvious. So I think guideline number one, let's not talk about the obvious choices like Aquaman and Black Panther and Miss Marvel because they get talked about so much that I feel like we're not doing anybody a service if we talk about them again. Can we all agree on that?
Yes.
Perfect. Another guideline I have is, and I didn't tell any of you guys this, so I really hope that this totally affects what you're going to say. Yeah. So I don't. That's fine if it is, because I didn't tell you, so whatever.
Spit it out.
Yeah, I don't want it to be remakes or reboots of anything that already exists. So
Okay, that's okay.
if you're like,
it's like a partial reboot.
Okay, I mean, if you're like
The soft reboot.
Yeah, if you're like me and you don't think there's been the perfect Spider-Man movie yet, you can't just say Spider-Man needs his own movie.
No.
Yeah, because obviously he's had his.
No, he does need his own movie, by the way. I want to put that out there. He does need his own movie because right now they can't have a Spider-Man movie with more than 10 billion approximate main characters.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, I mean, that's a topic for another time, I suppose. But
I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I do feel like with Spider-Man movies especially, they're always just like, how many more characters can we pack in here before we just need to fill every second with meaningless character development. All right, we're good? Cool. Moving on. Last thing, I want to talk about specifically characters that haven't gotten their own live action films or shows. We're also going to be talking about TV shows, just live action adaptations of things. So, for example,
animated show count?
Animated, well, it's not live action, is it, Bryce?
No, that wouldn't be live action.
So, if you think that Static Shock should get his own movie, that's fine. Because
that's not where I was going.
But I mean, I'm just giving that as an example because I didn't write it down, but I thought about writing it down. So now I just mentioned it.
Very subtle, Scott.
Thank you.
Very
but
subtle.
Yeah, so I'm talking about characters that specifically haven't gotten their own movies, but if they've appeared in films or TV shows before, then I think that's fair game, as long as they haven't had their own. Like Wolverine, obviously, he's had his own movie. But if you want a Kitty Pryde movie, she's been in the movies, but she hasn't had her own solo movie. And I'm throwing Kitty Pryde in there again because, again, I almost wrote it down, but didn't.
Very
I thought I would mention it.
You sly dog.
Perfect. So those are the 3 guidelines I have. Does anybody have any problems with those?
Nope.
Perfect. Who wants to start it off?
I could start it off.
I have several. I'll put that as a warning. I have
All right,
several.
Chris has a lot. Bryce, how many do you have?
I only have a couple, but I'm kind of halfway really serious about those couple.
Okay, so you're like hardcore dedicated to these couple of your topics.
Mainly two of them. The third one's kind of like just for fun. I'd love to see.
Well,
it.
let's stop being vague and dive into it, Bryce. Give us one of your characters.
Okay. One of the ones, it's more of like a duo thing, and you kind of brought this up, Scott, because I know we were talking about it a while back.
Right.
And that was when I first started getting into the White Lanterns, and how I was really kind of thought that White Lantern storyline was cool, especially with like Kyle Rayner and him mastering all the powers and stuff. And then I found out about Swamp Thing. And I don't know why, but I just absolutely love the Swamp Thing storyline. I mean, they've not really, as many adaptations as it's had over the years, they've not really changed the main storyline. There's been a couple like minor differences in it, just how it starts, but not. They all start with a lab accident, so
right.
I mean, same
classic science in comic books.
Same basic beginning. There's not really any crazy wild theories out there about him that I've found. I mean, I'm not an expert on Swamp Thing. I think the storyline's really cool because it's a DC comic, so it does get really dark, like DC tends to get sometimes, almost to the point of like creepy, like surreal, and even like morbid.
Yes.
In the ways that the things that just happen to this guy and what he's trying to stop.
Alec Holland? Is that his name?
I think that's his name. Yeah.
All right. Let's never remember. We're never supposed to look up anything. We're never supposed to correct ourselves. We're supposed to keep on going.
Yeah, we're both diving into this, so the internet will ridicule both of us. Kind of what I would like to see though is not only a Swamp Thing. Now that I realize that there was a Swamp Thing movie.
Yeah, there was a Swamp Thing movie. So I was going to ask if you wanted there specifically, because you said it was going to be a duo thing. So I didn't know if you wanted there to be a specific Swamp Thing, Kyle Rayner team up movie or something.
I thought that would be cool, but that wasn't the duo I was thinking of. I was thinking of when Swamp Thing and Animal Man actually come in contact.
In Rotworld.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I almost wrote that down. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Okay.
I think that would be a fantastic storyline to bring out because Swamp Thing and Animal Man, I mean, they're both kind of similar and they both represent life in a way. Mm-hmm. You've got the plants and the animals and the whole circle of life thing going on. Mm-hmm. But I did read a couple of the comics when they come together, and it's just, even though it's like a really kind of, like you said, it's in like the Rotworld storyline, so it's kind of dark and weird and a little out there. But at the same time, kind of some of the jokes that get punched back and forth between the two of them at each other and the way they interact is really, I think, would make for a really great storyline.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's definitely one of those movies. If they did it, it couldn't be PG-13. I don't think.
Oh, no.
Yeah, everything in Rotworld is so gross and disgusting and decaying, and Animal Man is always about like. All of if you just look at the art in any of those books, it's so gruesome, but it's amazing. So
yeah, it's weird because normally I'm not drawn to stuff like that. Because I mean, we had a while back the guy that did Suicide 5. Mm-hmm. That was a really morbid topic that I was like, I really don't like this because of the content, I guess. Right. But there is sometimes when that morbidity just kind of jumps out and works really well. Yeah. And I think Animal Man, Swamp Thing, whole Rotworld,
the Rotworld storyline you want to see on film.
I would love to see that in film.
That would be super awesome. And I'm gonna jump onto the segue train really quickly because you mentioned Suicide 5, which is a comic book that NerdSync is in. And one of I don't know if this is even considered a segue. One of the characters that I wanted to see this is one that I thought would be better of a TV show than a movie. But I thought Suicide Squad would make a really cool TV show because they've already had an animated movie that was really good that came out recently. They've already been established in the CWDC TV universe. It's a lot of letters in there, but they've been established in like the Arrow universe and the Flash universe. So I think it'd be cool to take those characters and give them their own show, kind of week to week. They do a different job or a different mission. that would be kind of neat. And if you don't know who Suicide Squad is, really quickly, they're basically just villains in the DC universe that were detained and put their like little bombs inside of their necks that will explode their faces off if they don't comply with Amanda Waller's directions. She's basically the Nick Fury of the DC universe, only more evil, I guess. Not evil, but more sinister. I don't know. She's always fighting on the side for good, but her methods are weird. Yeah, I think that would be kind of a cool thing to do. I don't know if any of you guys have ever read or seen anything with Suicide Squad.
No.
All right, cool.
I mean, I've heard about them, but I don't really know that much about them at all.
Fair enough.
I've heard about it.
Not much comics, so
Yeah.
Oh, you've definitely dropped the name a few times, so I'm familiar, with them, but not familiar with them.
Right. I mean, in the New 52, you have like Deadshot, who's really cool. Harley Quinn, who they've also introduced in the Arrow universe, kind of.
that one little second that you were like super disappointed about.
Yeah, I mean, I just like Harley Quinn. I think she should be in more things. But yeah, if you
Agreed.
There's an animated movie they came out with recently that's called Assault on Arkham, and it's supposed to take place in the Batman Arkham games universe, but it's like an animated movie.
Yeah.
That's really good. So I would check that out if you want to know anything more about Suicide Squad and know the reasons why I think they should have their own live action TV show, maybe even set in the same universe as Arrow and Flash, since they're already established there. So, Chris, what do you got?
I have several ideas. Some of them are more mainstream than others. I'm gonna start out with a very, very obscure one. I'm pretty sure that there is a comic book somewhere out there for Mega Man. It's probably a manga series, Japanese comic books. But there is a character in the Mega Man universe that I am in love with. She was started in a spin-off series of Mega Man. And just as a what's what I'm looking for? Just as a general disclaimer, I learned about a lot of these obscure characters from the Marvel vs. Capcom series, which is a fighting game series for anybody that's been living under a rock.
Right.
But that's where I got my first familiarity with a lot of Marvel characters too, because that came out back in the day. And there's a character from the Mega Man universe called Tron Bonne, and she is basically a sky pirate, but she's a very interesting character, and I think it would work well on film because pirates are in right now. And I would also like to see a Mega Man movie as well.
Are pirates still in? Is that still a thing that's happening?
I think
Yeah,
it's still in.
Interesting.
Assassin's Creed Black Flag,
Yeah.
and
That's true.
yeah, and I think Mega Man would work well as a movie too, including Tron Bonne, because she's a what'd you call it, an anti-villain, a bad guy with not bad guy motivations.
Sure.
that what it is?
Probably. I
Yeah.
don't know things, but I'm still on this pirate thing because now that I think about it, Harley Quinn in the Injustice games kind of dresses like a pirate, I think. So that's weird. That is weird that pirates. I have no idea anything about.
Well,
Pirates will probably always be in a little bit.
Yeah.
well, the reason I bring it up is because I played this really hidden gem kind of video game back in the day called The Misadventures of Tron Bonne. It was on PlayStation 1, and ever since then I've thought, man, this would be really, really neat to see, in a movie, because it was very interesting. They fly around in this futuristic kind of world, which is very Japanese, very, technology based. And she has, I think it's 100 of these little robots called Servbots, and they look like little yellow Lego men. And they're all very quirky. They all have different personalities, but the Servbots are very innocent, and she's very we're going to kick butt and steal from people kind of attitude. And it was very interesting, and I would also like to see Mega Man as an adaptation.
Is it almost kind of like Despicable Me, where he's trying really hard to be a villain, but then his minions are just like innocent little yellow people?
Yeah, mostly because if I remember my Mega Man lore correctly, Mega Man is your Boy Scout kind of character, and Tron Bonne is out for her own purposes, a treasure hunter kind of deal. But she's not totally black-hearted. And that was something I liked in the video game, because the game had this really cool other section of the game where you get to explore the ship and make moral dilemmas and whatnot.
So
and
she's
you get to control the
she's
bots.
a video game character.
Yeah, but I'm 100% sure there is some form of Mega Man manga out there somewhere.
Sure, Chris. Way to be
No,
lazy
I
with
looked.
it.
I looked this up.
Uh-huh.
I have more choices. That are
All right, hit us with another choice since I think you have the most out of all of us.
This might be one that most people are going to disagree with me with, but I think Bomberman would make a great Bomberman.
Is he a comic book character?
Yes, there is Bomberman manga.
Okay. Gosh.
And I've actually put a lot of thought into this because usually if I'm out walking or if I'm not paying attention at work, I'll daydream about these things.
About Bomberman, right?
Well, I'd like to think that if there was a Bomberman movie, how I would do it, and I think it would be cool because not a lot of people realize that in the very first Bomberman game for the Nintendo, it had a plot. I mean, the game didn't have a plot, but there was a plot behind it, like in the instruction booklet and whatnot. And it's actually a pretty interesting plot. And if I were to do the movie, I would say it would be, I want to call it hyper realistic because they did a very realistic modern Bomberman reboot on the Xbox 360 and it failed. But Bomberman does have a plot.
Yeah, there's actually a storyline behind it. They did make a comic book because I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That'd be one of those they'd really have to dig and get the main fans to kind of draw somebody in, to draw their friends in, because that would be a really hard one to try and market.
Well, the thing that got me into this idea was back in the day on the Nintendo 64, they had a series of very Japanese, I want to say hardcore Japanese style Bomberman games that were very animated, very cutesy and fun stuff. But it was cool because they had bad guys coming in from outer space. They had, parts where you run around the world of Bomberman and towns and stuff. And I thought that was really neat. And I've always kind of wondered what that would be like if they made a movie, a feature film out of it.
Interesting. I'm glad that you're bringing up the anime stuff because I get a lot of talk on Twitter about people saying, like, why don't you do more videos about anime? And I'm like, I just don't read anime, guys. Like, I can't do a video about something that I don't know about. So I'm glad that you're bringing that stuff up to kind of, throw a little bit into the mix there. So that's good.
Yeah, because I hadn't even thought about diving into stuff like that because I don't know. I guess I just thought comic book characters, and so I stuck to the main two, kind of Marvel, DC, which all of mine are DC, which is kind of funny because I really consider myself a Marvel comics person.
Yeah, see, that's weird because I don't know if I have an even mix. I think I have a little bit more DC as well, but I tried to throw in some Marvel stuff in there too. So, I don't know. Also, I just realized that I kept referring to it as anime, and I think that the term is manga or something.
I think they're interchangeable, but I think the anime is referring to the...
I don't want people to yell at me or anything, so...
well, I mean...
You'll probably get yelled at anyway.
Yeah, it's the internet. That's, yeah.
Well, I actually have 4 Marvel DC suggestions and 1 more anime suggestion.
All right. Who wants to go next? Bryce, you got something else?
Yes, actually. My other thing, which you kind of hit on it, and this is the one I was having issues with when you said no reboots, because it's not a reboot of the character, but it's kind of a reboot of the universe. Okay. And you managed to say exactly what it was earlier, and that was I'd love to see a Kyle Rayner Lantern storyline that leads into the White Lantern storyline.
Yes, I wrote Kyle Rayner down on my list as well because he is my favorite Green Lantern, and he is so kind of unrepresentative. Is that a word? Unrepresented? That's the word I'm looking for. Underrepresented. In just all sorts of media. Like, obviously, the only Green Lantern that's had his own full feature movie, to my knowledge anyway, is Hal Jordan. But then you also have Jon Stewart, who's in a lot of the cartoons of, like, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. But Kyle Rayner, seemingly nowhere to be found in a lot of these universes. And I think he is the best Green Lantern, in my opinion.
And I mean, I even thought about this, too. They could do, like, a first Kyle Rayner Green Lantern movie. To just kind of introduce Kyle Rayner, the character, and then from there build into the. I'd love to see the White Lantern storyline through Kyle Rayner's part in that.
Where basically,
he actually goes out and like controls all of these different
colors of the.
Yeah, exactly. He goes out and trains, unlike Hal Jordan, who just kind of had the White Lantern ring handed to him, and they were like,
The green. Wait, you mean the Green Lantern ring?
Well, yeah, but isn't that what happened with the White Lantern? They needed a White Lantern.
Oh,
and so he ended up.
I don't remember anything.
Who reads the comic?
Who reads comic books?
I know Scott doesn't know. I was pretty sure Hal Jordan just kind of got the White Lantern ring. Like he became powerful enough that he just became a White Lantern.
You're probably right.
But Kyle Rayner actually had to go to each location where there was a core, right?
Yeah.
If I'm remembering
and then
right.
train in that specific emotion.
Exactly.
To
Train
it. And that was really cool. I like that idea. I'm going to throw out 2 words that I think it's a shame there hasn't been a live action movie on yet. I think it's one of the easiest, most obvious ones to do, in my opinion. Batman Beyond, I think, would be a super awesome live action film. Chris, you disagree?
Ooh.
I don't disagree, but I'm very, very conflicted with Batman Beyond.
Why? Why is that? Tell me, Chris.
Well, Batman Beyond in itself is really cool, but I feel like to do a Batman Beyond movie would further the problems we have already with Batman movies. Basically, it would be them skipping ahead. It would kind of put Batman in a corner, to bring this new cool thing that's not Batman, to the front.
I don't know if I 100% agree with you because, number one, I have no idea what you're saying.
I don't know. I was never a Batman Beyond fan. I never got into it because it seemed weird to me. But I guess what I'm saying is I would rather see Batman done correctly before we do a Batman spinoff.
I agree with that, but I think Batman was done pretty well in the Dark Knight duology. Because there was no third movie in my mind.
Well, you see, that's what I'm saying, though, because I remember you said before, Scott, that you had problems with the Nolan trilogy because it was, too realistic and you wanted something that didn't take itself too seriously. And I thought a lot about that, and I think you're right.
I think, not to get too deep into it, but the Nolan trilogy was really good for what it was. But when we do have our next interpretation of Batman, obviously we're going to get it soon. I don't want it to be in a world that's too ultra realistic. I want it to be in a world where Killer Croc can exist and nobody has any problems with it. I want it to take place in a world where Clayface exists and nobody has any problems with it. And I felt like the Nolan trilogy kind of made a world that didn't feel like those could blend in. But I think Batman Beyond could work as its own standalone thing if you don't make it connect. Like, that's the thing. I don't know if I would want it connected to any of the other DC movies. If it was like its own standalone thing and it was like, what's a really good old actor to play Bruce Wayne?
Clint Eastwood.
That's what a lot of people say is Clint Eastwood. They want Clint Eastwood to play Bruce Wayne. Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
I pulled that out of the air.
Well, let's go with Clint Eastwood then. And then we have someone play Terry McGinnis. I'll say Zac Efron. I don't know. I'm just naming young actors.
Oh, Zac
Internet,
Efron.
please yell at me. But seriously, though, like,
I think it would work. Like you were saying, Batman Beyond was a very futuristic, very different world than what we live in now, and it would make stuff like that more believable. Where there could be, like you said, a Killer Croc or these other characters that wouldn't exist in like a realistic world,
right?
So,
and I think that could really play out. Who else has something?
I have more.
Chris, go for it.
I had one more anime reference, but I'm going to exit out now because I'm thinking it's a little too obscure and it might just be a suggestion that I would really want to see a movie of.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna skip it.
Play fan favorites.
Yeah. I'm gonna go right ahead to the more mainstream ones. I would like to see an adaptation of some form of the Legion of Doom. And when I say Legion of Doom, I want to see not the new. Oh, look, it's Lex Luthor or whatever. I want to see the one that we saw in the old Justice League Super Friends Hanna-Barbera.
Where the base rises out of the swamp.
And there's, Solomon Grundy and Lex Luthor and Scarecrow and all those guys. I want that. That's the one I want to see.
That would be, I would totally support that. That sounds great.
That's interesting. One rule that I almost made for this was I don't want it to be a group thing. But I didn't do that, so you slid in there. But yeah, I think because it's more specifically about characters. Because obviously you can say X-Men and you can compile a whole team of different X-Men, and that would apply. But I think Legion of Doom would be kind of a fun one. Who would they like? What would do you know what the storyline would be for that? Would they just would it take place from their perspective, or would they just be the main bad guys in it?
Yeah, well, I was bringing this up because I want to see Zack Snyder do that in his Justice League franchise pending, because he's doing the Superman versus Batman thing to bring the idea forward, And I always imagined that would be the Justice League movie if there was one, because that's always been what I've known Justice League.
It would be that'd be kind of a cool thing because with the Avengers and the Marvels in the Marvel universe, you kind of have Thanos at the head of everything. But for DC, it might be interesting to take all of if you have everyone have their solo movies after many years, and then you take all of their biggest villains and put them together or something, and then they team up to be the big villains of like a Justice League movie or something. That might be kind of cool. Is that what you were thinking? Yeah,
well, I mean, it was just I'm really kind of worried about the whole Justice League premise coming up because I've just always thought it would be the coolest movie ever to see the Justice League Legion of Doom movie, and it could really be just beyond cinematic awesomeness. But it doesn't seem like they're going that route.
Right.
It seems like they want to do Lex Luthor is the devil kind of route, and I don't like that. That's not enough.
They really like to make Lex Luthor the big bad guy.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. I think there could be a cool Lex Luthor movie. Now, I'm just adding I'm adding this to my list right now. Lex Luthor movie from the perspective of Lex Luthor, where he's not a bad guy. He's just trying to prove to the world that Superman's the bad guy. But by doing that, he puts a lot of people in danger and he does a whole bunch of terrible decisions. And then all of a sudden the world sees him as a bad guy. Yeah, that might be kind of interesting.
Lex Luthor is like an anti-hero?
I would go back and use that term, the anti-villain, maybe, that Chris is trying to use.
And anti-hero is somebody who does good things, but they go about it in a bad way methods, because they're
okay.
They're like neutral, chaotic.
I think
kind of.
Lex Luthor, what he tries to do is he tries to do things that he thinks are for the good of humanity, but everyone else doesn't have his mindset, so they see him as a villain. Because that's like his thing. He wants to prove that Superman at any moment could kill us all, and then we'd be powerless. So he's trying to get rid of Superman to protect humanity, and it fails because Superman is just loved by everybody. And so by contrast, Lex Luthor's the villain. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing with Lex Luthor. But on that same kind of road of villains getting their movies, I have to ask, I don't know. I wrote this on my list just for curiosity's sake. I don't know if I would like it, but would you guys see a Loki movie, a solo Loki movie?
Maybe if they did one that showed exactly what was going on while he was pretending to be dead.
Okay. Oh, so like kind of almost a prequel filler in between.
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah, but I don't know if they'd release that as a full-length cinematic movie, or maybe just kind of like one of those things that releases on Netflix or something, or a one-shot.
One-shot. They always talked about doing a Loki one-shot, but they said it's too expensive because Loki is... Well, because of... Think of all the CGI involved if it took place on Asgard, and they're like, "No, we can't afford to put that much money into it if it's just a one shot." Yeah, so
cause they don't make money off those one shots, do they? I don't think they do. I don't pay to see them.
Well, no, I mean, obviously we don't pay to see them because they usually come on like Blu-rays or DVDs or whatever, or just they appear online. I think the first couple of them just went online. I don't really remember, but I mean, obviously people get paid to do stuff, but it's not coming out of our pockets, like not directly anyway, but I don't know. I know they would probably make a ton of money on a solo Loki movie because of all the girls that would go to see it for Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
So it might not be a bad idea, like business wise, but I don't know if I would want to go see a solo Loki movie. So
I have a legitimate suggestion.
Go for it.
Morbius, a living vampire.
Okay, yes, because, and I'm going to interject before you get to talk, because I've been hearing one of my friends say this for such a long time that he wants a Morbius movie, and I love the character, but go ahead, talk about it. Talk why he's on your list.
Well, I read about Morbius before the whole Marvel Now thing. I had a storyline, I think it was the Marvel Zombies storyline, where he took part in it. I might have my facts wrong, but when the Marvel Now thing started, they had a Morbius, the living vampire series, and I read it for a while, and I really liked it. It had this really interesting what would a vampire do if he was in the middle of a gang war in modern day? You know, how would he affect the people? Do they believe that he's a vampire or just a freak?
Yeah,
you know?
And Morbius is cool because of the dynamic between him. Even if, I almost kind of want to see him played up with Spider-Man, because when I read a Spider-Man comic book with Morbius in it, it almost feels like Spider-Man's the villain, because Morbius is trying to just survive, and he can't, because everything that he has to do to survive is what you would consider an evil person doing. Like, he has to drink blood Spider-Man makes him out to be this big villain, but when you read it, it's like, no, Spider-Man, you're just being a huge jerk. He's just trying to be a person. Stop being, So I think that would be kind of an interesting thing to do. Would you want it to take place in that same universe as Spider-Man, or just kind of have it be its own solo thing?
I'm going to say that would be cool, but no, because Andrew Garfield and Sony own Spider-Man right now.
Right.
So.
I just I just didn't know if you wanted it to be connected to that same, like they would make references to Spider-Man, or would you want it to just be solely focused on Morbius?
I think initially it should just be about Morbius, because you don't want to spread the plot too thin. But then maybe in the sequel, Spider-Man, that would be really cool.
Awesome. Bryce?
I don't know anything about Morbius.
Well, I just wanted to ask if you had another character or something that you wanted to do.
Oh, I thought you were asking for my input on Morbius.
Bryce,
and I was like,
tell us for the audience, Bryce. Can you quickly give us an overview of the origin and history of Morbius from start to finish, really quickly? I know you're the Morbius expert, obviously. Do you have another character that you want to talk about?
Yes, although this one's a little more obscure, and I don't. Well, not really obscure necessarily, because a lot of people know about him, but obscure because I don't think people are thinking of him for a movie. But somebody actually brought it up.
I want to point out that I don't think any of us have said any girl characters yet. Oh, well, Chris said one in the beginning, right?
Chris did.
I have one that involves girl characters, but that was my reference that I X'd out.
All right. Well, either way, we got one in, so we're good. Bryce, continue.
Yeah, we're fine. No. But I think it would be really interesting to see, and somebody actually commented this on a post you made about who we want to see in movies, and that would be a Blue Beetle movie.
Okay, good choice. Explain yourself.
Yeah, see, that was the thing. I really don't have a good explanation. I just think it's a really neat character. Really, it's such an obscure. I mean, I think it's one of those lesser known characters that people don't really know the origin of or anything. And I think it'd be really cool for DC to drive into some of those. And then, of course, once you get there, you've got people like Booster Gold that they could step crossing over into.
Man, Booster Gold would be a cool solo film. I don't know. Maybe I want Booster Gold to be a TV show. I don't know. Either or. I'll do both. Both. Do a movie that spawns it into a TV show. Sold.
Yeah, there you go. Instead of the other way around. Don't do, yeah. I want to say Moon Knight, because I've been giving Moon Knight lots of praise in the comic books. Warren Ellis just completed his run of 6 issues, and they've been all fantastic. Moon Knight is a character that I want to see as a TV show. I don't want to see as a movie. I think people are speculating that he's going to pop up in the MCU at some point. I want to see him as just a TV show because of the way that Warren Ellis has been doing the Moon Knight comic books, where they're all one and done issues. So you can pick up issue 1 and 4 and 3 and read them in any order you want, from the cover to the back cover. It's all one storyline, completely done, and it's so good because it's so simple and it works, and I love it. And I think that would just make for a really great TV show. Is Moon Knight just going after street thugs and dressing in all white and just looking awesome and to be the best. So that's my option. I think that's my number 1 pick for who needs a live action adaptation of some kind.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, guys. Didn't need your validation, but thanks.
But that actually made me think of another one that I had actually thought of before, but totally forgot about until just now. Mm-hmm. But and hey, I switched back over to Marvel with this one.
Do it.
Taskmaster.
Ooh, all right.
Oh, I like that. Why didn't I think of that? I love Taskmaster.
Right? Taskmaster to me is just another one of those. He's kind of a darker character, but he's in the Marvel universe. And I think he like is a do everything martial arts crazy, every weapon you can think of.
And
I actually know his power. He has
Yep.
the power to see anything once and then be able to repeat it perfectly.
It's like adaptive mimicry or something like that.
But I mean, he's involved with like a lot in the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
He even helped out with Shield at one point. So automatically, there we go. There's our tie.
There's our Shield connection. Yeah, perfect.
Exactly. Already a part of the universe. So that would be really easy, I guess. But he's one of those characters there again because he's not as realistic due to his facial features.
Right. Okay.
So,
I mean, I have a feeling that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is gonna kind of stray away from realism.
The grounded reality type of Iron Man stuff.
Right. I think they're going to stray away from that when they start introducing characters like Doctor Strange, who's just magic. Oh, man, that just made me think of something. I hope they don't try to play off Doctor Strange as like, no, it's just science, but it's like science, like magic. And I'm like, no,
murder somebody.
That would be the worst.
For real, he's supposed to be the master, magical
sorcerer
guy
supreme,
of the Marvel
yeah.
universe. Yeah.
you know, I don't know why we keep pretending that Marvel tries to do stuff realistically, because Hulk.
Right, but that's the thing. It's not realistically, but it's always tied to science. Like, that's what all the Marvel MC... Even Thor, who's supposed to be magical, they play that up as like, oh, no, it's not magic. It's just science that we can't understand yet. And so I really hope that in Doctor Strange, they're like, no, it's not science. Stop pretending it's science. It's magic. Can science do alchemy? No, magic can. And I assume there's alchemy. I don't know. There's probably not alchemy. But either way...
Well, in the realm of Marvel, I just want to throw in War Machine. I love War Machine, and I know this is like a hard segue, but Marvel, and we already have a actor to play War Machine.
Yep, we have two actually. If we want options, yeah.
Well, it's like I mentioned earlier. I learned about a lot of these characters through the game series Marvel vs. Capcom, and War Machine has been my favorite, or one of my favorite Marvel characters since then. And I think he would be really neat because he's different than Iron Man. He doesn't have the same convictions. He's very gung-ho. We're going to blow things up. At least that's the way he is outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah,
I think that his character in the MCU is very much very, very tactical, very efficient, very all with the government doing everything that he can to protect the country and do what's best for the people and everything like that. So that would be that's an interesting thing. I almost kind of want to see Iron Patriot with Captain America, and then it's just the most freedom in one movie that you could possibly have.
Oh, the America.
But yeah, that's a good choice, actually. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Good call, Chris. Good, pat yourself on the back with that one.
Well, he's already with us because we already have an actor to play him. The people already know him, and we've established him as War Machine.
I feel like he's been underused in the Iron Man movies. I watched Iron Man 3 again for the second time, and I feel like he could have had a bigger part, but he didn't.
Well, it's sad because if you go back and you play that game, Marvel vs. Capcom, he has all these really cool weapons. He's got these rocket launchers and this backpack that shoots missiles out of freaking nowhere, and he's very cool, and he's got all these really neat euphemisms that he uses, when he fights, and it's very, very, very cool, very hard, very blow things up, kind of Michael Bay fun.
Awesome.
And I've always wanted to see that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We should have, and would you want it to go back to War Machine and not be Iron Patriot then? Because I think the last time we see him, he's Iron Patriot.
Iron Patriot was fun while it lasted, but no, I'm not a fan of the Iron Patriot thing. I think it's kind of cheating.
I have one more, and then also one storyline that I think would be cool. So this is a character, my last character. It's a character that's been in a lot of movies already. There was rumors that he was going to get a solo film a while ago, but that didn't happen. I know what it is. You want to take a guess? Oh, I'd be so impressed if you get it.
No, because now I might be wrong and I'll be embarrassed.
Or you could be right and you could be impressive.
Are you going to say Robin?
No, I'm not gonna say Robin.
No?
But that's a good
It's all those
choice, though.
descriptions.
Yeah, that's
Nightwing
true.
and whatnot.
The character I was talking about was Magneto. I think
Uh-oh.
Magneto would make an awesome solo film if they did. Because originally, I think I heard rumors way back in the day that Ian McKellen was gonna do the solo Magneto film, but he said he was too old or something, so they didn't want to do it. But now with Michael Fassbender, I think the best part of First Class was all of Michael Fassbender's stuff when he's like hunting down people and torturing
He's
them.
a good actor.
He's so
He's a
good,
actor.
and he's so good. So I think would be cool if they kind of took a lot of that aspect of just young Magneto doing all these things, doing all these crazy hunting after people that tortured him and made his life terrible, and just as Magneto going through life being awesome. And I think that would be a really cool movie that I would definitely watch 8 times in theaters. I had one more that I wanted to talk about, and it wasn't a character, it was a storyline. Hulk, because everyone's been saying for a long time that like solo Hulk movies don't work very well, or at
Planet
least they
Hulk?
haven't. It's not Planet Hulk because
Oh, really?
it's again, you need to have that balance between Hulk and Bruce Banner. And I feel like Planet Hulk's something
Right.
that everyone tries to throw out there like that's a good movie and it's set up perfectly, and it's like, yeah, but there's not going to be a lot of Bruce Banner in that. So what I thought of was something that Marvel did recently in the comic books where they had, and this fits totally perfectly in the MCU, it's the Indestructible Hulk storyline where Bruce Banner knows that he can't control the Hulk anymore. He knows that he's going to Hulk out eventually, frequently. So what he does in his spare time is he works for S.H.I.E.L.D. And he says, hey, I'll make you one new invention a week. And then at the end of the week, drop me in some location that's away from people. I'll Hulk out and destroy buildings and stuff. Then I'll come back too, and I'll build you another thing. And then it'll just keep going in that circle. So it's Bruce Banner working for S.H.I.E.L.D., which could totally fit in that universe. And then they just drop him somewhere and Hulk out. But of course, they obviously use him for things like, hey, there's this big, powerful villain. You ready to Hulk out? Throw him in there. And then he battles people. And then when he's done, go back and invent some things, science stuff. And it's just a cool idea. And I think it would totally work because you definitely hit that balance between Hulk and Banner perfectly because they each have their own separate thing they need to be doing. It's brilliant.
And in the storyline, it's a win-win situation for S.H.I.E.L.D. and Bruce Banner.
Yeah, exactly. He gets to, make stuff, invent stuff to secure the Banner legacy, so it's not always just linked to Hulk. And also S.H.I.E.L.D. gets new toys to play with. And they don't have to worry about Hulk just going crazy because they control the environment that they put him in. And it's a great idea. And I think they should incorporate that into the Marvel Universe.
I like it.
But only if they bring Coulson back into the Marvel universe, the cinematic universe. That way he can play with the new toys and make funny catchphrases for each of them.
Yes. Okay. What if they did that? And what if S.H.I.E.L.D. So they set up Banner working for S.H.I.E.L.D. And then in the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, every week, Coulson gets a delivery that's like from Banner, and then it's like a new invention. It's like James Bond in Q, where Banner is Q, and he's like giving you all these cool new toys to play with, and then Coulson's like, all right, yeah, cool, let's do this. Exploding pen and laser watches. Yeah. Oh, that would be so cool. That would bring the show up to a whole new level. They wouldn't even need Mark Ruffalo to be on the show. It would just be a package delivered at the beginning of each episode. Like, here's some new toys to play with.
But, I mean, after a couple weeks of that, though, it might get a little ridiculous.
Nope.
Because then it'll feel like the show is more focused on the new toys that they get every week.
That's
Once
how
in
it
a while,
always
they
is.
can do it.
All
Once
right.
in a while.
How about at the beginning of each season, they get a new shipment of toys, and then throughout the season, you get to see how they use all those toys differently.
Hey, there you go.
All right, we just wrote seasons 3 through 5 of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm assuming it'll be there. I'm assuming they've already written season 2, so we have to come in later.
So that's how we can make the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show better. And I think the way that we can unsuck the DCU would be to get everything to focus on that White Lantern storyline
Sure.
we talked about earlier.
Sure.
Because so many of the main characters from DC all become White Lanterns.
Mm-hmm.
Batman becomes a White Lantern. Superman becomes a White Lantern. Wonder Woman becomes a White Lantern. And like you could go along. I was actually going to say that earlier.
You're gonna, yeah, okay, so have that be a continual thing inside of the DC franchise.
Yeah, after we get everybody's main storylines out of the way, then everything starts building up into this big, we're going to have like a White Lantern final conclusion to that White Lantern storyline.
The Adventures.
Yep,
Yes.
it's a crossover.
It's like the same plan that Marvel did, so I had to say something.
Yeah.
Well, they're eventually planning on making a Justice League movie, right? Or after we create a Justice League movie, then we could take the Justice League and put them into another storyline that they're actually a part of, which would be the White Lantern storyline.
Perfect.
Specifically with Kyle Rayner.
Yes, with Kyle Rayner, Suicide Squad's doing stuff in the background that's influencing things. I just got to work in everything that we have because we just need to connect everything together.
The Legion of Doom.
There's ramifications. Yeah, Legion of Doom. There's ramifications that affect the future in Batman Beyond. That's all that I had. I don't know if anybody mentioned any.
So where does Blue Beetle come in?
Blue Beetle, yeah, he's there. He's like the key to everything somehow. Yeah, and we'll work out the details. Doesn't really matter. Just say things like Catalyst and Chosen One, and people will buy it. So that'll work for me. So there you go, guys. What did you think of our picks? Obviously, we didn't want to go with, again, the obvious choices like Aquaman or Miss Marvel, because I feel like those are getting their own movies, or at least should. I don't know, they're talked about a lot, so I just wanted to try to stray away, do something a little bit different. But hey, if you have your own choices for who you think should get their own comic book movie, obviously it would be a comic book movie, they're comic book characters, then you can go tweet at us at NerdSync on Twitter. You can go to our Facebook page, which is NerdSync Productions. Or hey, if you're on YouTube watching this, listening to this, leave it right down in the comments below. And you know how every week I ask you guys to go to iTunes, give us a quick rate and review? Well, I want to show you guys, I want to read to you some of the reviews that we've gotten so far to maybe help inspire you guys to write us some good reviews, and also just to say thank you for taking the time out to do that. So this first one is from Guitar-Sided Instruction, who says 5 stars when the audio quality goes up. Gave us 4 stars. That's awesome. Says, funny guys who seem to really know the source material, don't take themselves too seriously, and are excited to talk about my favorite nerdy subjects. Looking forward to when they are able to upgrade their audio, which is the only minor complaint. Thank you so much for writing that, Guitar-Sided Instruction. Thank you for your honesty as well. Yeah, Bryce and Chris are both over Skype, so sometimes the audio quality isn't as good as we would want it to be. I think especially this episode we had some issues with that as well, but hopefully we'll be updating that soon. Bryce is in a completely different state, so he just needs a better microphone, I think. And Chris has the ability to drive to my house. He's just lazy. So maybe this will inspire him to head over here where I have a perfectly good microphone set up for him ready to go. The next one is by Deanigan. I don't know. Says, great podcast, 5 stars. Just started listening. Gotta say, I love this podcast. The one topic idea is great and different. I love the should Marvel kill off a main character. So good. Written in all caps, which is nice because it's reminiscent of a comic book written in all caps. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for that, Deanigan. I will figure out how to pronounce that name. But thank you so much for taking the time out to write that. And guys, giving us a review, an honest opinion, really does help us out to make the show better for you, as well as help us rank better in iTunes search, which will help the show spread out to all the other comic book lovers just like you. And it's really not for us to become famous. That's not why we do this. We do it because we love talking about comic books, and we love it even more when you guys can get involved. So thank you so much for writing these reviews. And hey, if you have something to talk about, if you have a topic that you want us to tackle specifically, you can even email us old-fashionedly at nerdsyncproductions@gmail.com, or just anything to add about this episode. I'd love to read some more of your guys' stuff on the podcast. So again, thank you so much. I've taken up enough of your time for right now. We'll see you guys right here next week for more of the NerdSync podcast every Monday. See you later.